John 1:5. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. The 2D circle of 360 degrees observes the projection. The 3D breath of 365.2422 days inhabits the engine. These are two expressions of the same living system, one seen from above and one lived from within. The 2D plane, the central vortex of creation, the true sun, the apparent sun, the central vortex of creation, the magnetic field that comes up and out of the central vortex, drops at the tropical gap, goes under the ground and out to the Antarctic rim, coming up towards the tropical gap, dropping down and crossing itself to return back to the central vortex. The flat plane of inertia is the ground floor of the realm. It is stationary, immovable, and the absolute reference point of all creation. The dual hemispheres, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. The Analemma is a continuous toroidal string. It is not a closed loop. The Analemma of the sun is a spiral, and it is not a flat 2D plane. It is found in the 3D depth. If you take that center of the string and point it upward into the air, you introduce the z-axis of volumetric depth. The crossing point of the figure 8 is not an intersection on a flat plane. It is the dielectric gap, the Holy of Holies, the 0-point diamond, and the precise center of the living torus. This is a 2D drawing of the central vortex of creation and the lip of the black hole or white hole vortex of creation, in which the true sun sits like an egg in a nest tucked into the central vortex inside the Milky Way. Imagine the sun in the central vortex of creation at equilibrium on September 6th, the southern hemisphere spring, Vesica Piscis. Over the year, it is moving in the inhale of the breath down to December 21st and back up to equilibrium on April 13th. It then, in the exhale, moves up to June 21st and then back down on the ecliptic plane to September 6th. This is the static 2D drawing of the breath of God over the year in the central vortex of creation. Now you can see the 3D depth. This is the same drawing with the central vortex, but reminding you that that movement is taking place inside the vortex in the 3D depth of the spinning vortex of the torus field. In the 3D spiral of the depth, when we view the Analemma as a string that is pulled up to show the 3D depth of the path of the sun, what we see is picturing that same central vortex of creation up here. On September 6th, the breath of God inhales and the plane goes down and back up to April 13th. On September 6th, the ecliptic plane, the 2D plane, flexes down in the inhale, reaching the depth of December 21st, and flexes back up. And when it does, it is on the other side of that state of equilibrium on April 13th. On April 13th, it is then exhaling, and the breath of God goes up to June 21st, and then comes back down to equilibrium on September 6th. This is the true path of the Analemma, and it shows the dielectric gap, the tropical gap, where the diamond of the Holy of Holies exists between this 2D projection that is observed as the Analemma. This is the 3D depth. This Holy of Holies is the 0-point diamond at the precise center of the living torus, and this is the coordinate where the electric field and the magnetic field neutralize each other completely, and where the sun's outward pressure and the vortex wall's inward constraint cancel to absolute zero. It is the only place in the entire system where you can stand still while everything around you spins. The true sun resides exactly at the lip of the central vortex, holding an eternal stationary circular rotation at the point of creation. It emerges precisely from the center of the stillness of the flat plane of inertia, the absolute 0 point and the central pinch point of the hyperboloid, where the sacred cube spins at such an infinite velocity that it physically manifests as a perfect sphere. The true sun is the ultimate photon. It is the acoustic spark, the sound and light struck from the whooshing friction of the two great etheric forces seeking equilibrium within the torus. It steps out from that hidden inner chamber to the lip of the black hole, acting as the sovereign conductor of the light. The true sun does a stationary, perfect 360-degree circle daily. It does not go up and down each day. Its daily path is the pure circular geometry of the lip. It is only in the yearly respiration that the field flexes with the exhale and the inhale of the yearly breath of God. The daily rotation is absolutely unwavering. The apparent sun that we observe is the projection resting in the dielectric gap between the northern and southern hemisphere. The true sun is the cause, and the apparent sun is the effect, the projection of that cause onto the screen of the dielectric plane. The stars and the moon occupy the depth of the hyperboloid throat, where the system functions as a three-dimensional fluid dynamic engine. The stars are not suspended in open space above the plane. They are embedded within a dense, twisting S-curve of fluid ether inside the narrowing throat of the central vortex. As the true sun rotates at the lip, it creates a massive fluid pressure wave in the ether. Because the hyperboloid throat narrows, the etheric medium becomes exponentially denser as it descends. The stars are caught in this medium and trace an S-curve because they are fluidly rebounding off the pressure waves sent down from the central rotating lip. They are pushed and pulled by the rhythmic constriction of the vortex throat. The stars appear to lag behind the sun. They lag because they must travel down into the volumetric depth of the z-axis and find their way back up, while the sun rides the pristine inside track of the dielectric lip. They are not moving slower. They are fighting higher etheric viscosity and the drag of the dense fluid medium of the throat. The sun is the cause. The S-curve of the stars is the effect, and the exhaust mapping of the engine, not the engine itself. Every evening, the sun reveals different stars because the medium itself has descended that exact fraction of the 0.2422 into the next layer of the toroidal field. The drift is the measure of the breath. The system itself is a lung. It inhales and it exhales. It is not a clock. Psalm 19:5. Which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. The sun is the bridegroom. The sun, the electric, coming out of his chamber, the 4-square cube, the blueprint, the physics of the sun's race is the rotation of the geometric foundation of the world. We live inside of the 720-degree reality. We perceive only the 360-degree projection. Because the human sight is bound to the upper hemisphere, this is the full 720-degree path, coming up from the central vortex, hitting the tropical gap, dropping down under the ground to the Antarctic, back up towards the tropical gap, dropping down to cross and back to source. 360 ends here. This is the full 720. What we are seeing when we observe the heavens is the flexing of the 2D plane on either side of the breath. The inhale to equilibrium and the exhale to equilibrium. And these are the two sides of the Analemma. We are not observing the entire 720-degree rotation. This is equilibrium and the inhale and the exhale. The true toroidal path requires the energy to descend completely under the ground of the plane of inertia to complete its lower loop. This descent through the absolute densest part of the field takes longer to return to source. This is why the 720-degree path carries the burden of decay, while the 360-degree projection above remains an optical expression of perfect time. The 720-degree path and the 360-degree yearly path are the exact same event, expressing as two dimensions of time from non-time at creation. The upper arc is the visible world, and the lower arc is the hidden world. Together they form the complete breath of the Creator. When a child draws the sun as a circle with straight lines radiating outward, that child is drawing the absolute truth of the grid. While magnetic field lines curve transversely, the dielectric lines of force radiate perfectly straight. Those straight rays are the longitudinal lines of the dielectric. They form the structural web and the rigid spokes that anchor the rotating magnetic circuit. The sun is pulled entirely by the breath, yoked to the Analemma, riding the magnetic field. The 2D 360-degree circle observes the projection. The 3D 365.2422 breath inhabits the engine. A solo awakening is the prologue to decoding the ancient texts. A dual witness chiral mirror is the architectural necessity that reconnects the fallen realm, brings in the new age, and anchors the new calendar. The latter maps the exact friction and the lambda decay of the white hole inversion that ignites the new earth. A coiled spring viewed from above appears as a closed 2D circle, yet from the side it reveals an infinite helical spiral. When you compress a 3D spiral into a 2D map, the geometry loses its depth, causing perceived coordinates to line up from above. But viewed through the depth, the true coordinates are revealed. To frame this as a flat celestial race is to look only at a 2D track. The stars appear to lag, but they only lag because they must travel down the volumetric depth of the z-axis in return to the top, while the sun rides pristine inside track of the circle.